All right, guys, welcome to the James Hogan podcast. I have my man Kyle Allen on the podcast. He is a countrywide wholesaler, real estate flipper. And how old are you, Kyle?
I'm 25 right now.
25-year-old making seven figures, you said?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. So let's jump right into it. So I'm at the point now where I'm flipping houses. I own my primary residence. It has a lot of, I bought it in a great location. So I'm a real estate broker, just so you know, well, an agent. I'm a real estate agent
Definitely.
in the Hamptons in Long Island in New York. And I'm transitioning now, even though I'm making great money doing that, into the wholesaling flipping space because my goal was always to own rentals at scale. You know what I mean? And I feel like this is a more direct shot to doing that. So I guess tell us about like how you got started with flipping and really wholesaling.
Yeah. So I kind of got, some experience into the game really early. I had a guy that took me under his wing at 16 and basically started showing me the investment space. Because I always, liked real estate. I wanted to be an architect when I was growing up, but didn't want to go to school for all of, the degrees and stuff like that. And I was like, how do I end up getting into real estate? You imagine most people healthy, and that's how they end up getting in. That's farther from the truth, real estate investor. And I kind of got a glimpse at that at 16 from a guy that was self-made, who started buying houses. I mean, he was doing probably over 200 deals a year in Phoenix. And I just kind of got, so then I was like, holy shit. That kind of just changed my whole perspective. A couple years later, I'm in college. I'm trying to, figure out what I want to do with my life, not really sure, had the average route people like, hey, go to college, get a good, you know, save up and, invest your life. And that's kind of just really sit well with me. I just kind of thought that there was a different way that could go about it. So I was in college. I decided to start a business at 18 to basically help real estate agents and investors to basically help with marketing. Started that out, kind of got me, my feet wet in the space where I was to basically do a lot of this stuff without having to put my money on the line and getting paid to learn. And that kind of helped me to kind of progress my career. Around 20, I started wholesaling houses, started really figuring out how to actually, get paid to, find a contract. So like doing pretty much everything that people would already be doing. I was finding the deals for them. I was building out the CRM systems. I just wasn't selling the deals. So that was pretty much the only thing I wasn't doing at the time. So I was like, if I could just go in there and figure out how to, these deals to investors and lock it up with sellers, I could probably make a lot more money than I'm making just paying, getting paid from an agent or an investor to run their marketing. And so that's kind of what my progression started going on around like 21, 22, flipped my first house. I think we made about like $80,000 on that deal. And then I kept basically flipping houses from there, kept wholesaling houses. I was doing it in other states, mostly just the wholesaling side. I wasn't really flipping or taking anything outside of, kind of my Arizona bubble.
Right,
And then,
right.
just kept learning, the process. I started building a team. I got connected with a business partner that has helped me to scale this business beyond my wildest imagination. Uh, it also starts thinking about, how do I make this thing a little bit bigger, because you have a really successful life, doing this and just wholesaling houses and flipping just on, one man army. But what I started figuring out was like this space hasn't really been tapped into by a lot of, institutional level, investors and stuff like that, as far as the wholesale space. So if we figure out how to make this a national company, I think that could be a really great play and a really great avenue to make a lot of money, to continue to keep investing in real estate, buying rental properties, apartment complexes. We're looking at some industrial assets now since they're kind of getting, hit on harder than others, and just trying to figure out how we can kind of keep going. But, it really all started out whether I was just passing out signs and flyers at 16 and got me the taste of what investing was. Luckily, I was able to get an opportunity young and, kind of take that and learn from it.
Well, that's a lot. And you're really taking it to the next level, especially at your age. I mean, that's insane. So one thing I'm curious about you is raising money. So you're raising money. So let talk about like your first flip and how you're doing it now. Like, is it a fund? Is it just through a promissory note and then hard money? Like, how are you getting the money to flip these houses? Are you taking your wholesaling money yourself and dumping it and using hard money? Like how are you raising money?
Yeah, so my first deal, I used my own money on that one. I just basically kept taking assignment fees plus marketing, dollars that the company was generating, just saved up enough money that way. So that was my first deal. And then I realized, well,
So
heck,
you use your own money for the acquisition, the rehab, everything, all your own money?
correct. Yeah, I
Oh,
used
nice.
hard money to basically fund the difference of it. I had to put 20% down plus the renovations.
Right.
So I was into it. I bought it for 300, so I had 60 down, plus that renovation, I think it was like 70 grand or so.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so it wasn't like, I had to save up 300 grand or 500 grand to do that deal. But that's where hard money really helped out quite a bit. But what we do now, we have a combination of stuff, at scale, raising money is a really great thing to do. We do mostly promissory notes. We don't have a structured fund when we're doing fix and flips or when we're, buying apartment complexes and stuff like that. If we're going to do anything, it's more of a syndication if we're doing an apartment complex. And it's kind of one of the things I think a lot of people don't understand what a syndication is or don't understand how they, leverage their operation to find manage the deal and then just put someone's money into it as a passive investor.
Yeah. So
So
how does the
yeah,
syndication work exactly? So I know the gist of what it is. I actually know a few people that do it. I understand that you're raising money, you're pooling money to buy a deal. You take a acquisition, you take a fee to raise the money, get the deal, and then how do you determine how you pay your investors back on a syndication? How does
yeah.
it
So I
work?
mean, at the end of the day, it's all negotiation. You know what I mean? It's whatever I think is a fair price for you and what you think is a fair price for me. So if I'm willing to, make on and all of this debt and also take on to maybe give you a 6% preferred, on the money, well, I might want 30%, 40%, 50% on the overall deal of equity. So it just kind of depends. We've structured stuff differently on multiple different deals. We've also thrown our own money into it. So pretty much any syndication deal that we do, we're invested into it. We're not doing these, without, having some skin in the game. And I think it shows your investors, hey, I believe that this is a good investment, that I'm going to put some money into it. I'm not going to raise the whole thing because then I don't need you anymore. But I also need to make sure that, it's a healthy balance. So typically it's about a 70-30 for the investors, or maybe a 60-40 is what we do when we
Just
do
for
this.
the listening audience, when you say
Yeah.
70-30, what do you mean exactly?
So 70% of the equity is going to the investors. So if I go to, dispose of that asset in 5 years, 10 years, whenever I think the right cycle is being the general partner, I
Right.
can go dispose of that asset. They're going to get paid the 70% of the profits of the deal. And as me for structuring the deal as the general partner, I'm going to keep the 30%. And then along the way too, we have waterfall splits with these investors too as well. Typically, our general waterfall split is 50-50. So after I get you your 6% return, I'm going to take 50% of the upside and you're going to take 50% of that upside, but you're going to get the first 6 out of the deal. So that's kind of the cool part about these investors, is kind of structured as a little bit of debt, but also the upside is there too. So they're not just structured only as debt.
Right. Gotcha. And that makes sense. And you're basically, so you get that 30% on the deal because you found the deal, you structured it, you raised the money and all that stuff, and that entitles you to that. And then you're getting your investors their 6% returns plus the waterfall on top of that, basically.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm also taking on the risk too. So like, let's say things start going south on me. I still have to pay that 6% pref. I still have to figure out how to make sure I'm managing this asset to
Right.
perform at the highest ability too, because if not, I'm lose money. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the downside of it too,
Yeah.
right? Especially
Yeah.
when, a lot of people don't think about if you're doing a value add asset and you're doing a syndication. Well, you have months where you're down on rental revenue because you're renovating these units, and you have
Right.
also
And you're
increased
trying to
expense.
probably get people out so you can get them up to market rents and you need the money to rehab the unit and things like that. So yeah, a lot of risk.
Yeah, a lot of risk, but a lot of reward if you do it right. And it's
100%.
allowed us to keep scaling our portfolio. I love kind of doing the syndication stuff, but we've also kind of moved towards more of just buying these rentals ourselves and kind of just doing that as the wholesale business is kind of taking off a little bit more. Just we have more, income that's just kind of sitting there that's, being ready to deploy. So that's kind of been a little bit of a change, but when we were early on getting started, syndication was a great way to get started. And I think we'll eventually need to syndicate deals as we kind of go to those larger asset classes.
Right.
But it's a full-time business. I think that's where a lot of people.
100%. I mean, you have to, how many staff, you have to have some kind of staff, like people looking for deals, people raising money. Like how many people are you working with right now?
Yeah, so our team is about 10 people. Obviously, that's dispersed between wholesaling, flipping, managing the rental properties, all that good stuff. So it's about 10 people that kind of, run the whole show here.
That's great for a 25-year-old. You're really crushing it right now.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been a
you're
lot of
doing a
fun.
good job. So let me ask you about the wholesaling because like I said, I'm a luxury broker in the Hamptons, I'm doing like 30, 40 million in sales a year. And I'm actually, people think I'm crazy because I'm pivoting out of that into
Yeah.
more this space where it's like, dude, you just bought $1 million house, you're making $250,000 a year. Like, what are you doing? But I see the future. I'm looking to get off this hamster wheel. So for wholesaling, for example, what are you doing to like what's your most effective way of pulling lists to call them? Like where are you finding these lists of people that you are wholesaling the deals for? Like where are you finding
Yeah.
the lists
So
basically?
we've done a lot of SMS marketing, that's
Yeah,
kind
you know what, I just bought launch control yesterday,
of
SMS
perfect.
marketing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we've done
great.
a lot of SMS marketing. That's helped us a ton to, source deals and basically contact sellers. Obviously had some more restrictions as the kind of years have gone on. So you
Yeah.
just got to be careful and understand, what you're doing and how to really scrub that list to kind of make sure that you're not getting any, litigation issues to come up
Right.
in the future.
Right. I
But
know that for, and not to cut you off, but I know for
good.
like I've used something called KV Core in the past and you can kind of text them whatever. And I know that now you can't, there's more like basically I signed up for launch control yesterday and you have to go through a 2 week process of like best practices. Here's what you cannot do, so you can fall within the guidelines of what's legal. So
Yeah, big time. They've really cracked down on it over the last probably year or so. It's been definitely a lot more challenging, but you just got to work with the guidelines and kind of go with it. But that's one of the things that we've always kind of been in the background, always working on multiple marketing channels, especially that's where my background is. So, we've pivoted more to Facebook ads, Google ads, Instagram, TikTok, different inbound strategies that are helping us to bring leads coming in versus always being outbound. It's a little bit better of a conversation when someone fills out a form on your website, you call them up that same minute and you're like, hey, let's chat, let's figure out what we can do. James, I saw that you wanted to sell your property on 123 East Main Street. And typically those people are a lot more motivated and they're not getting targeted as hard as, someone that's getting texted because they're an absentee owner or the property is, considered vacant or whatever the other list that you might be going after pre-foreclosure. Those are some of the lists that we've hit and we still hit today. But the pre-foreclosure list, I mean, it's like, especially here in Phoenix, it's been, I'm sure, nationwide it's been this way too, but especially here in Phoenix where we hit it really hard. I mean, it just got really, really small on us. So it was like, was a couple hundred. Now it went down to like 50, and then now it's coming back pretty strong. So we're definitely seeing
yeah.
more foreclosures hitting the market and stuff like that. So more opportunities. But for a while, it was like everyone was trying to feast on, the 50 foreclosures in Maricopa County, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. And I've seen them come back a lot. I'm actually going to look at, I'm going to one auction in person today, and then I'm going to look at four that have online auctions going on right now. So have you done any of the auction stuff?
Yeah, so the auction space is really not what I've done. I've bidded at auction multiple times, but lost on those bids just to someone that was willing to pay a stupid premium for the deal.
Right.
I used to work for a guy when I was down in Tucson in school that's all he did was just literally every Tuesday and Thursday, I believe the auctions were, he was bidding and he'd buy 5 or 10 of them, a week from the auction and just do that.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
and he would just sit from his desk, they'd have the spreadsheets, they'd have the drivers go hit all of the properties, make sure that they kind of had an idea of what they were basically purchasing before, because you're kind of going in there a little bit blind.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's a different ball game for sure. And I think as the space comes back a little bit more, we'll probably maybe pivot towards auctions, especially for the flipping company, because it's just a great place to, just directly bid on something, buy it, and just go from there. So that way I don't have to spend money on marketing. I don't have to, deal with a seller for 6 months of following up. As you as a listing agent, you know that very well of how
Oh
much
yeah.
tedious follow-up is and how long it takes to get some of these people.
Yeah, it's a you're I do 2 hours a day of just prospecting, and if you could get away from that, that would be amazing. And I mean, lately I've been doing 4, 5, 6 hours a day of just prospecting, so I get that completely. So let's talk about rentals, because I think the end goal for both of us would be to have 100 rentals, or even just have rentals paying for our lifestyle and just be completely financially free. I would assume, right? Is that what
Yeah,
you're looking to do?
100%. Yeah. So that's a great space. I mean, it's exactly where we want to play in. And that was kind of like my whole like long-term goal was just to buy rentals. I knew guys that had 100 rentals, 200, 300 rentals, and their lifestyle was crazy. I mean, they could do whatever they wanted to do practically whenever, and they weren't relying on the active income anymore, right? Obviously, they still had active income that was coming in, but they could go away for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months on vacation and not really care about, oh, missing out on this deal or missing out on that deal, because they just had such great passive income that was coming in. So rentals have been kind of a big thing. We're right now at like 37 units in our portfolio. We're trying to
Congratulations.
keep
That's awesome.
scaling that and just trying to keep going. It's cool to kind of see a breakdown. We kind of do a quarterly breakdown and a monthly breakdown for, just us to know what's going on, which assets are performing better. Because obviously we've kind of seen a little bit of a spice up in the market with multifamily specifically, where we're
Yeah.
just kind of seeing right now rentals are not, leasing up as fast as they were. We're seeing a little bit more delinquencies right now in the overall portfolio, and even just general when I'm talking to other people. I have a meeting because Arizona has a lot of hedge funds here. So I have a meeting that I go to with, some big guys at Progress Residential and, Invitation Homes and some of these other companies. And they're starting to see the same thing too amongst their portfolio, where they're seeing a little bit more default ratios. And these are just some of the things that we always factor in on our budgets when we're, underwriting the properties as vacancies or delinquencies.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just,
Vacancy, capex, things like that.
yeah. So that's one of like the things that you just really have to always worry about. And I think a lot of people right now that are, looking to buy rentals and, trying to keep scaling that portfolio, a lot of them think, oh, I should maybe 1031 this asset into the next one. And it's like, sometimes it's not the best idea, especially depending on what your goals are. I was talking to someone this morning. I mean, they're making about 500, 600 a month on this one property. And they're like, we'd love to 1031. And I go, when did you buy the property again? I think it was like 2019, 2020. And so they have a really great interest rate on it. I'm like, well, you're going to take an interest rate double what that is. And then you're also not going to maybe cash flow as much. So you might free up some equity in the meantime to 1031, but you're really just dumping it back into something. And you might make a couple extra bucks on cash flow that pays you, but you're not paying down your debts. And that's another thing that I always look for is like in our portfolio is how do I structure good debt to be beneficial for me?
Right.
So we've leveraged a lot with our portfolio, seller carries, getting creative with some of the deals that we're doing too. So that way I could go, we bought a 10 unit apartment complex that was structured on a 4% note for 30 years amortized. So it was like at the time when we were doing that deal, I think the average interest rate for the apartment complex was about like 6.5, 7. So we were saving a ton of money on basically structuring a deal with the seller, putting them in there. And we also were able to pay a little bit more for the property to beat out other offers and people that were interested in that same asset.
That's amazing. And that's how you get creative with it. And that's how, that's a great way to do it. So I want to come back really quickly to
Yeah.
raising money. So you're obviously raising money for these syndications and things like that. Are you raising money from people that you know? Is it like from your network, from institutional investors? You said, like, where are you raising money from?
Yeah, most of the money that we've raised from is family and friends. So that's why I love getting on social media and being loud, because you have a lot of family and friends that come out of the woodworks that see what you've been doing and are like, dude, like, how do I get invested in this game? How do I, start talking? So we sit down, we either have them come into our office so they can see our operation and see that, hey, this is not just kind of like, we're, just winging it. Like, hey, we're like fully trying to build something for you to be a part of too. And we kind of show them how they can structure that. So we usually sit down with them. We try to talk to them about what is their lifestyle trying to look like. Because sometimes people, will talk to us and we'll turn them down if we're trying to raise money, because they might not be a great fit. And I don't want to raise money from someone that, is going to be in a weird situation 6 months down the road, 12 months down the road. And it's not going to, our goals are not aligned either. So one of the
Right.
big things that we do is we kind of talk to them, especially if it's on the syndication style. Obviously, I'm 25 years old. I have a long, runway of when I maybe want to retire and maybe when I want to sell off some of these assets. So I kind of tell them that I'm like, hey, like I might not sell this asset for 20 years, 30 years down the road. Like if you're okay with staying in that game with me for that long, then let's play. But if you want me to just keep going in and out of assets every 2 years and just flipping them, we should talk about a different business structure where maybe the rental side of my business is not a great fit for you. But
Mm.
maybe my flipping business is a great fit for you because I can put you in these deals. We can then just flip these houses every 6 months or so and just recycle the capital that way. So it just kind of depends on what they're looking to do. Or if we have someone that's maybe a little bit more risk adverse, maybe they just want to take a promissory note for 10% and just be structured as debt. And then I go do whatever I want on that debt. And then they have like a 90-day call option. So that's kind of just some of like our three buckets that we kind of put people in. And then some people just don't fit into any of them because they want to be an operator like me and you. They want to go do these deals. And we tell them like, well, why don't you just go do these deals? You can get on our wholesale list. You can buy properties from us that we're passing on, and you could go take those opportunities yourself, or you could go, try to learn how to do this too. We have plenty of things that we give out for free all the time, from our fix and flip calculator to how we understand how we wholesale. Like I have a free course that literally tells you everything that you need to do about how to wholesale a house. I don't charge a dime for it on purpose because they want to give people that information for free.
Yeah, and the more you give out for free, and I find that's common with guys around. I'm in Long Island in New York, and everywhere is the more you give out for free, the more it does come back to you. So, I mean, I got a lot. I mean, this is pretty insane. So, 25 years old, 37 units, really crushing it. So as far as the rentals go, so you own 37 units. Is that from syndications or those single family houses?
Yeah, so 19 of the units that we own is syndication. The rest of them we just bought ourselves and it just burnt out, or we just
But you
structured.
bought it with hard money, fix
Yep.
it up, and then refi it with a DSCR loan pretty much?
Correct. Yeah, so most of them are DSCR loans that we would refinance into, and doing that. But yeah, we just found value add properties that we could just go in there, stabilize the asset in 6 months, 12 months, and then just basically, refinance it out, get our cash back out, redo it again, and just keep going on that cycle. So, and that's kind of the cool part when you're around the wholesale space. I could just keep paying and paying and paying to find good deals and then go take those deals on. But obviously, given a certain limit, I don't want to take on too many because we did that, right around like 22. We took on too many at one given time, and we kind of just learned a pricely lesson to not take on too much than we can actually manage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not ignoring you, by the way. I'm writing
No,
down.
you're good. I love that you're taking notes. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking notes, and even though I'm 5 years older than you, and I maybe could teach you something in other spaces, but I mean, you're really doing this, and I'm always a student of the game, and especially, I've been the guy obsessively watching the YouTube videos, following guys like you, things like that, and now when I'm actually starting to put money down on multiple houses, the goal is to end 10 units by the end of this year. You know what I mean? I want to make sure,
Love it.
I want to see the strategies that people are doing it, and it sounds like you're just, I mean, it sounds so simple, but you're literally just doing it. So, last question I want to ask you is, as far as these lists are concerned, actually, two more questions. One, are
Yeah.
you staying in just Arizona, or will you go to Florida? Will you go to Tennessee, Georgia, places like that? Will you go out of state?
Yeah. So we've been doing Florida for almost about 2 years. Florida's been a great market for us. It's mostly been a wholesale market for us. We've taken down a handful of assets, and then we just kind of turned around and resold them just to try to get a higher yield instead of just wholesaling it off and just making an assignment fee.
Right.
But mostly just wholesaling in these other states right now. It's just we want to be careful with what we're buying and understanding because locations are really important. As you probably are aware, being in the real estate industry, you could go over a couple pockets over or even just the next zip code, and it could be a completely different type of area and asset class and
Oh
demographic
yeah.
people, and you could get yourself in a lot of trouble. And Florida has a lot of those pockets, so we're learning the market. And what we kind of do is I kind of always say like wholesaling is like my monopoly game. I get to understand the market, I get to learn, I get paid to learn. And then after I learn enough and I feel confident, then I'm going to start investing real dollars into that market to buy
Right.
rentals, to flip houses, and kind of keep scaling that up. So Florida was our first kind of expansion market. We tried Texas. We did a couple of deals there. Texas is just really hard because it's a non-disclosure state. We actually moved my business partner's brother out to Tennessee for a little bit in Nashville. And he lived out there for about 6 or 8 months, and we tried to open a market there, just really challenging market. We weren't really able to figure it out. We were also trying to, keep growing the company and trying to, just do different resources in other places, but realized, we needed to close down those two markets. Just wasn't a great fit for us. And then just as of recently, now that we've kind of scaled back, really dialed in our systems, our processes with Arizona and Florida, we just opened a new market up in Colorado that we have two people locally that are going
I
to
don't
be
hear
running.
too much of that.
So yeah,
Yeah.
should
Nice.
be good. Yeah.
That's, and that may, you don't, I was going to say, you don't hear too much of that. Especially me being a New York guy, you hear the Tennessees, the Floridas, the Texas, things like that. But I know a lot of people from Colorado, they like winter in Arizona. So that would make sense that you guys can kind of trade off in that way, you know?
Yeah, and there's a lot of people like one of our preferred hard money companies here. Their expansion state was Colorado, so we're like, hey, this is obviously a great place. This is a billion-dollar firm that is doing hard money loans. We should probably follow suit of where they're going to and try to, match what markets that they're in. Since we already know, hey, if I find a good deal, that they're going to have buyers and borrowers that they can lend that money to, and then I already know that they're going to perform on the asset and all that good stuff too when it comes to giving, if I'm wholesaling the house or if I'm keeping it for myself, that I know that I have that capital. So I'm not trying to get acquainted with a new lender, understand maybe they have different processes or different things. It's the same thing when it comes up from Colorado to Arizona. And also too, we always look at price points of houses when we're doing this. Like, there's a lot of price points in the Midwest that, I'm sure these are great states, but I don't want to wholesale a $55,000 house or a $100,000 house. I'd rather, do a $500,000 house that, is going to give me more spread. Because if I'm making 10% on each deal, $500,000 is 50 grand. If I'm making 10% on 55, that's only 5 grand. It's a huge, massive swing. It's the same deal. It takes the same amount of time. And you hear that with a lot of the guys that do like big multifamily deals or, big commercial deals and stuff like that. Same thing with even the residential space where you're selling, these luxury houses. It takes the same amount of time to sell that house that is $15 million versus the house that's only $150,000. Like, you know what I mean? It takes the same
Yeah.
amount of time.
Same headache for a $200,000 house as it is a $5 million house, you know? Same
Exactly.
exact
Yeah.
thing. So that makes sense. So last question, absentee owner list, things like that. Where are you finding these lists?
Yeah, so we use batch leads for a lot of our data, and just basically go in there. We try to find all of them. We run the foreclosure list. We also have a lot of website entries. And so we have basically, if you ever look at our website, you guys can copy this too. But if you look at our website, basilholdings.com, they just start filling out their address like an open door and offer pad. So we're getting all these website entries all the time. So what we do is we basically go in there and we start scrubbing that data. We start mailing them. We start basically figuring out. So I might have a bunch of people that are filling out just their address, but don't fill out their phone number and their email and their name and all the other relevant information that I might need to actually make them an offer on the house. But at least I have a data point that I can go into. So that's another big thing that we're running and using that to our advantage with our website, since we're getting, thousands of viewers every single day, that are visiting this website. How do we basically tap into that and start targeting those people based off of them filling out that form?
That is so cool. So you have thousands of people visiting your website every day?
Yeah. So we're running a lot of like Google ads, Facebook ads, TikTok, YouTube, anything that we can get people to. That's our goal. So basilholdings.com is the name of the company.
Yeah, I'm looking you up right now. Basilholdings.com. Wow. And it looks nice as well.
Yeah. So good buddy of mine, he's a website developer. His dad is in the luxury space up in Vegas. And so he's built out, numerous amounts of websites for huge companies. I'm sure would know some of these companies like Ryan Pineda. He's built out his website for him.
Really? Yep.
A
Ryan Pineda is a big guy that I'm following that is like really transitioning me out of the real estate brokerage industry, you know?
Yeah. So he knew Ryan before he like blew up and stuff like that. He was just like family friends with him. And then obviously Ryan started posting a lot of content and, went viral. So just shows, you never know who's going to blow up and who has success. And it just takes time and it takes a lot of shots too at the end of the day. And that's kind of a lot of the stuff with our marketing is we're willing to take a lot of shots. We're willing to try a lot of different things that might yield nothing. But at the end of the day, I don't know unless I try. And that's my biggest, always forethought with marketing is I got to try new things. I got to test out different ways and marketing strategies to get deals. and whatever I can do, that's how I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, it sounds great. I'm very impressed by you, man. I gotta say. So even like this website, so is it, I mean, all this stuff like sending mailers are expensive. Building
yep.
out websites are expensive. Like all these things, like you're doing all this from the money from wholesaling and flipping. You're just putting it back into the company and doing that, or do you have your investors coming in and helping you with this thing? Like
No,
how
that's a great question. Yeah. So as far as like equity shares and stuff like that with the actual company, no one has equity other than me and Lucas. So we didn't take out any outside money to basically, do all of this marketing and all that stuff. So it's just basically money that we've been wholesaling, flipping. It's our passive income. I could be taking a lot more of a check every single month, for my salary as running the company than I do right now. But
yeah,
we choose to elect to basically reinvest that money back into the company to keep growing it, versus living a little bit better of a lavish lifestyle. I could probably buy a new car. I could probably buy a nicer house. I could probably, go spend a couple more, on nicer vacations. But we choose to basically sacrifice it today, especially me and him. He's 26, I'm 25. We don't have kids yet. We're in this really like just growth stage.
yeah.
And we elect to basically reinvest a lot of that money back into the company and stay very, very frugal with our lifestyle.
Well, I got to say something, Kyle. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you for taking the time, by the way, to hop in this podcast. It's
Yeah,
been
thank you, James.
amazing to
I
talk to
appreciate
you.
it.
And let me tell you something. You are well on your way. You are well on your way.
Thank you, man.
Keep doing what you're doing. And look, let's stay in touch. I'd love to remain friends. I'm going to clip some of these things from the podcast. Guys, if you want to follow him, if you want to follow him on Instagram, it's at Kyle Allen 12. Am I
Yep,
correct?
that's correct.
Where do
Yeah.
they find you? Tell them where they find
Yeah. So you guys can find me on YouTube, with Kyle Allen. Just type out real estate at the end of it. There's a lot of there's a professional athlete named Kyle Allen, so it kind of makes it a little difficult
you. Yeah.
against the NFL quarterback. But you can find me on that. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. Pretty much any social media platform I'm on. You just gotta, search Kyle Allen real estate. You'll find me. Obviously, maybe TikTok will be banned. I don't know, but Kyle Allen or real Kyle Allen on TikTok. And I post a lot of stuff for free. Our whole goal is just to help people. If you guys want to do deals with us, you can, send us a deal at, basilholdings.com, or you can reach out to me directly too as well.
So let me ask you. So before you go, I have a deal in contract in Florida right now, in Clearwater.
Yep.
Do you guys want to buy that deal?
Probably not buy it, but we would help you to wholesale it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll shoot you a DM. I'll send you the deal and let me know what you think. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we just sold one in St. Pete the other day, and then we sold another one in like Tampa, like proper Tampa. So
Oh,
we're always doing deals, and we'd love to connect. And that's one of the things. We have a lot of wholesalers that help us to bring deals, and we just sell it off and we dispo it for them. So
yeah,
we have a pretty large database of, especially in that general area. We have probably about like 10,000 different buyers that are actively ready. So
that's amazing. Well, Kyle, listen, you're the man. You got a subscriber and a friend out of me, and
thank you.
keep crushing. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate it, James, and thanks for having me on, and really appreciate what you're doing, and love to see your success and just continue, crushing it, man.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. James Hogan, Kyle Allen, out.